March 28, 1979. A quiet morning broke over Pennsylvania. Birds chirped. Workers walked into the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant, unaware that within hours the hum of machinery would turn into the pulse of fear. Inside the control room, alarms began to blare. A reactor had overheated. Coolant levels dropped. Every dial, every gauge, every indicator screamed a warning that only a trained few could read in time. For the people outside, the families, the communities, the school children, the danger was invisible. No smoke, no flames, no sirens outside. And yet, the threat was real. Radiation escaping, potentially deadly, silent, and unstoppable. Technicians worked frantically. Minutes stretched like hours. Decisions were made under pressure so extreme that hesitation could cost lives. The signs were subtle. Misreadings, conflicting instructions, human error. Small actions compounded into near-catastrophe. The plant was on the edge. A disaster loomed that could have rivaled Chernobyl decades later. The media would later describe it as a partial meltdown, but for those who lived through it, the experience was human, terrifying, and invisible. Inside homes near the plant, people began to notice unusual reports. News outlets hinted at a problem. Panic whispered through phone lines. Mothers clutched children, questioning whether school was safe. Fathers tried to stay calm, but uncertainty gnawed at every thought. The threat of radiation was silent yet potent. It did not roar or blaze, it seeped. It invaded the air, water, and imagination. And the fear it caused was as real as any fire, earthquake, or explosion. Engineers at the plant grappled with complex machinery. Manuals contradicted observations. Some valves were open that should have been closed. Some systems failed to respond. Each passing minute brought the reactor closer to meltdown. Each decision weighted with unimaginable stakes. And then, for a brief moment, control seemed possible. Water flowed. Temperatures stabilized. Radiation levels dropped. The world breathed. Relief was temporary, though the danger was never fully erased. The public narrative was carefully managed. Evacuations were limited. Reports minimized. Officials sought to calm the nation. But behind closed doors, the engineers, plant workers, and families knew the truth had been hidden. The disaster had been almost erased from collective memory, sanitized for the sake of confidence. Some residents would never return to normalcy. Anxiety lingered in daily routines, in every glass of water, in every shadow. Children grew up aware that invisible threats could reach across fences and into homes. The 3 Mile Island incident revealed more than mechanical failure. It showed human vulnerability, bureaucratic oversight, and the fragile boundary between normal life and disaster. A reactor that should have been controlled nearly became a weapon against its own people. It forced regulators to rethink safety, engineers to question every assumption, and citizens to confront a terrifying truth. Modern technology could fail silently and catastrophically. The human cost was subtle. No immediate bodies counted, no heroic rescues televised. But fear, uncertainty, and the potential for loss left scars, invisible yet enduring. Families whispered to each other. Technicians relived each decision, and communities remembered a disaster almost erased by history itself. Even decades later, the lessons remain. Nuclear power is powerful, but human oversight is fragile. Ambition, convenience, and confidence can blind even the most trained eyes. And the people who lived through 3 Mile Island carry memories of a disaster that almost happened, but will never fully leave the minds of those who felt it. Some disasters do not explode. Some disasters are silent, almost erased, but the human stories persist quiet, haunting, and necessary to remember. The days after the near meltdown were filled with a different kind of chaos, one invisible to the naked eye. Scientists measured radiation in water, soil, and air. Residents measured radiation in fear. Every cough, every headache, every unusual symptom sparked speculation. Was the invisible poison inside their homes, their bodies? Families wondered whether the milk their children drank carried danger. Did the air they breathed hold invisible particles that could shape their future? And while engineers had managed to contain the worst, the psychological impact persisted, a silent companion to life in Pennsylvania. Government officials and the plant operators were careful with words. The media was invited to highlight safety measures, not near-catastrophe. News articles focused on the partial nature of the meltdown, the controlled containment, the technical success in averting a full disaster. But for those inside the plant, for the technicians who sweated over dials and valves, and for the families who lived with uncertainty, the terror of those hours could not be erased. Communities adapted. Emergency plans were revised. Evacuation protocols were discussed in town halls. Citizens learned to fear what they could not see, to respect the fragile boundary between normal life and technological failure. Children asked questions adults could not fully answer. Parents reassured them, but deep down, the memory lingered. The reactor that almost escaped control. The disaster that almost consumed lives silently, and the truth that human oversight is fallible. The human cost of the 3 Mile Island incident was subtle yet profound. No bodies were counted, no headlines screamed death, but stress, anxiety, and a lingering sense of vulnerability became permanent residents in the homes around the plant. Families carried invisible scars for years. Technicians who survived the ordeal felt both relief and guilt relief that the catastrophe had been contained. Guilt that it could have been worse. Guilt that their calculations and actions had not failed entirely by chance alone. The incident also exposed a larger truth about modern society. Reliance on technology comes with invisible consequences. Progress is lauded, risk is minimized, and the human stories behind near disasters are often erased. Yet they are there woven into memories, quietly shaping lives long after the alarms have faded. Decades later, 3 Mile Island is remembered in textbooks as a cautionary tale. Safety regulations were strengthened, nuclear oversight improved, but the human dimension, the anxiety, the fear, the families who lived with uncertainty is rarely emphasized. History often remembers numbers and policies, not the nights of quiet terror, the whispered fears, or the moments when ordinary people realized just how fragile their lives could be. The disaster almost erased lives, almost erased communities, and almost erased itself from collective memory. But for those who were there, it endures, a reminder that some of the greatest dangers are not explosive, not visible, but silent, slow, and profoundly human. 3 Mile Island reminds us that even in the modern age, with technology at our fingertips and machines built to safeguard life, we are never fully in control. Human error, oversight, and the unforeseen can still bring us to the edge of catastrophe, and the stories of those hours remain as vital as the lessons learned from technical diagrams and reports.